Am I wrong for telling my ex to stop giving my daughter lunch money? I have a daughter, Emily, 16 female, with my ex. She chose to live with my ex and his wife and kids the majority of the time because she has to share her room with her stepsister Laura, 15, at my house. My ex gives Emily $25 a week to buy lunch. Emily's and Laura's school is down the street from a lot of restaurants, so instead of buying school lunches, she leaves campus to buy herself and her friends lunch. Okay, I don't see the problem here. The problem is she sees Laura at school and won't get her anything even though she gets her friends lunch all the time. Why should she do that? I talked to Emily about it and she said it's because her friends pay her back and Laura can't. Valid point. I agree. Emily knows we can't afford to give Laura that kind of money, and I know she works part-time and gets an extra allowance from her dad, so I asked her to occasionally buy Laura lunch to make her feel better. She refused. I called her dad and hoped that as a parent he'd understand what I was trying to do, but he said Laura's feelings are not his or Emily's responsibility, and that if she wants to buy lunch off campus, she should get a part-time job like Emily. Facts. I tried to explain that Laura is in sports and she has ADHD and depression, so it would be hard for her to work, but he said that's mine and my husband's problem and hung up. What? You don't try to hold a pity party, okay? Laura came back home the other day crying because Emily came back with food from her favorite restaurant and didn't give her anything or offer to share. So I called my ex and told him that he needs to stop giving Emily lunch money and have her make her own lunches because she was hurting Laura. You can what? Why are you being so inconsiderate of your daughter's feelings? Like, I get they're both your kids, but what? He refused to listen to me and told Emily that I'm telling him not to let her go out to lunch because of Laura, and Emily hasn't spoken to me except to say that she's going to stay at her dad's full time for a while. Poor girl. Like, you cannot force relationships onto people. Like,
am I the asshole for watching and doing nothing to help my husband when he was extremely ill? My 27 female husband, Tim, 36 male, has a serious dairy allergy. I'm talking about an actual immune system reaction, not intolerance. I work full time and also have some seasonal work this holiday season because Tim has been without work and money has been very tight. As a result, I barely get to rest. The holidays are especially hard and I found myself getting just one day off every 2 weeks for almost 2 months straight.
Damn.
As you can imagine, that day off means the universe to me. Now, Tim loves dairy and will sometimes intentionally eat things which trigger his allergy. Lately, it's gotten out of hand. In fact, it always seemed to coincidentally line up with my time off, and I found myself spending my one day taking care of him. Last week, I finally asked him if he was intentionally timing it to line up with my day off. I fully expected him to say no, but he admitted that he was doing it to make sure that he'd have a nurse, and so he'd have someone close by in case he had an especially adverse reaction and needed a hospital. I was livid. I said that if he made himself sick again, I wouldn't take care of him. He didn't say much, so I thought he'd heard me. Fast forward to Friday night. I get home from work, and a few minutes in, Tim gets a pizza delivered. I ask him why when I'm making dinner, and he shrugs. I ask if a large garlic Alfredo pizza is worth the pain, and remind him that I won't be giving up my rest day again. He smirks and eats an entire slice while grinning at me. I left it at that and went back to my dinner. Predictably, he got sick, profusely vomiting, retching, and groaning from the intense cramping and diarrhea. I slept in the guest room to get away from the sound and smell. He called for me several times, and I repeatedly told him no. Hours later, he was still sick and woke me up at the crack of dawn to go get him Pedialyte and meds because he was so dehydrated and still in pain. I told him to order it in and asked him to get out and let me sleep. He was still whimpering when I eventually got up to shower and eat. Again, I did nothing to help or comfort him. By morning, when I had to go to work, he was enraged. He yelled, and by the end of the day, he told our friends and family that he nearly died, and I neglected him. His family accused me of passively trying to kill him. His mom called, shouting that he could have had a life-threatening reaction due to my petty actions, and that I'm a shit wife for not minding his health. I'm starting to feel guilty because she's right, and he could have been seriously hurt. Am I the asshole?
I'm 30 and my girlfriend, 27, is Indian. She moved to the US a few years back. I'm American, white, if that matters, and we live in North Carolina. My girlfriend loves to cook. She told me so on our first date. However, I'm not the biggest fan of Indian food. I find that a lot of spices used in Indian food irritate my stomach, and I have a very low tolerance for hot and spicy foods. She's never had an issue with this and never forced me to eat anything I didn't want to. In fact, whenever I stayed over, she made me things like pancakes and French toast, and they were incredible. She's a very good cook. 2 weeks ago, we moved in together. Our place is a large, fully equipped kitchen, and my girlfriend was ecstatic about all the things that she can do. I was happy to see her so happy. However, in all of our excitement, I didn't realize how our food preferences can actually become a problem. You see, I didn't realize that she cooks and eats a lot of Indian food, like all the time. For the past year, whenever we've spent time at each other's apartments, she's always made me things like ramen, pasta, lasagna, tacos, soups, grilled cheese, etc. I figured that's what she normally ate. I have a few Indian American friends and they told me that they don't exclusively eat Indian food at home, so I thought it was the same thing with her. Yesterday, she was super excited to show me something and dragged me to the kitchen. There, she unveiled a whole drawer of spices. We're talking about 20 to 30 different types of whole, crushed, powdered spices, neatly stored in glass bottles and labeled. I asked why she needed so many spices and she replied, "To cook Indian food, silly." I told her that I didn't like Indian food and she told me not to worry, she wouldn't force me to eat anything. That is just for her meals and that she'd made separate meals for me. I asked her if she could simply not cook Indian food in our house at all because the smell is so pungent and if she'd cook regular food instead. She told me that Indian food is regular food to her and I'm going to have to get used to it. I insisted and she said that she'll only consider giving up cooking Indian food if I give up cooking up meat at home. She's vegetarian because she doesn't like the smell of the meat being cooked. I told her that it was unfair to ask because she never objected when I cooked meat at my apartment. She told me that she's only demanding that I give it up because I'm doing the same thing to her. I got quite mad and told her that she was being extremely unreasonable as I need meat. I work out a lot and I need protein, but she doesn't need Indian food all the time and she can order takeout if she craves it. She told me that restaurants are not very good where we live and it's unhealthy to eat takeout every day. We ended up arguing for a while and now we're not talking to each other. Am I the asshole for insisting that she doesn't cook with spices?
Am I the asshole for flipping out on my husband for canceling my job interview? In 2019, I could no longer work because of physical disabilities and no company wanted to hire me for the past couple of years. My husband said it's better that I stay home and not worry about working. I agreed and he's become the breadwinner, but then it's like a switch flipped. Chores were 50-50, but after I lost my job, they became 100% on me. Keep in mind the physical disabilities I developed. His excuse for not doing anything to help is that I stay home 24/7. I said that's not fair and he promised everything will be 50-50 once I start working again. I told him I would find a job and he laughed and said good luck. I vividly remember that. Am I the asshole for flipping out on my husband for canceling my job interview? I found a job that would have me work from home due to physical strains. I was so excited and felt capable again despite the struggle. I told my husband about the interview and he looked red in the face and said nothing. Well, 2 days ago, I found out my interview got canceled. My friend asked why I did that and I said I had no idea. My husband came home and admitted to canceling the interview. He said that this job has a lot of requirements and I didn't seem fit to be accepted there, so to spare me the heartache of being rejected, he canceled it. I flipped on him and said he probably did it because of the chores. He threw a fit about how unreasonable and selfish it was to consider a job without even speaking to him first. Am I the asshole for refusing to buy my stepdaughter a car like my daughter's? I have a 16-year-old daughter and about 7 years ago her dad and I divorced because he found out he was gay. Him being the only breadwinner and me being a housewife, he preferred to let us live in our house. He continued paying all our expenses and giving me money to maintain my lifestyle. 2 years later, I met my current husband and a year later we married. He moved in with me and my daughter and him and my ex are great friends. Also, as a wedding gift, he even gave me his half of the house. Now I own it in full. My husband has a daughter with his ex, so she lives with us half the time. The issue is that my ex pays for our daughter to go to an expensive school, buys her expensive gifts, and for her birthday bought her a $60,000 car. Am I the asshole for refusing to buy my stepdaughter a car like my daughter's? My daughter and her stepsister don't have the best relationship, mainly because my husband's ex hoped they would get back together and kept poisoning her. My daughter would share stuff with her until she kept ruining them on purpose. That was when my husband made a rule that they can't borrow from each other, and I stay out of it because she refuses to see me as a parent. My husband has a good job, but nothing close to what my ex earns, and since we decided the house is enough for my ex, our income is just what he earns. My stepdaughter's 16th birthday is coming up, and she asked for the same car that my ex gave my daughter. We refused, and she threatened my husband that she'd never talk to him again if she didn't get it. He's wavering, but I refused. $60K is under what he makes in a year, and it will drown us. Am I the asshole for telling people exactly why my girlfriend wasn't at my brother's wedding? First off, I'm a girl and so is my girlfriend of 4 years. We're both mid-late 20s, share finances, live together, plan to marry and buy a house, etc. This will be relevant later. When my brother sent out the invitations, only my name was on it and I asked Dan and he said that because of COVID, they're restricting numbers. Also that no one was getting a +1. Fair enough, no problem. Anyway, I get there on Saturday and everyone has a +1. Even my cousin, who's been casually seeing this guy for a couple weeks. It's obvious why. This isn't the first time my girlfriend's been treated differently, but it's the first time it's been so blatant. Am I the asshole for telling people exactly why my girlfriend wasn't at my brother's wedding? I'm furious, but I grit my teeth, smile, and get through the ceremony. At the reception, my family immediately notices my girlfriend's missing and asks about her. I was gonna say she was sick, but I said F it. I said she wasn't invited. Gee, I wonder why. I wasn't loud, but it was clear I was bitter, and shortly after, my brother and his new wife came storming after. She's sobbing, and he's whispering, shouting threats at me, so I left. Now my immediate family isn't talking to me except to yell at me, and the rest of my family isn't talking to them except to yell at them. My mom insists it was a misunderstanding with the invites. And my dad wants me to apologize.